Hello, well, you're obviously here to run the Chapter 4 Clifftop Observatory. So if you haven't watched the other videos, maybe you want to. And if you're planning on playing this game, don't watch this video. So for the rest of you, let's get into it. These characters were from the cartoon I watched in the 80s, but then there's no other mention of them in the box, really. We're all a bit disappointed with that, people who knew the cartoon. Anyway, so your characters have to be 3rd level by the time you go to the 4th chapter. It suggests that the combat encounter itself could be too difficult for anyone who's 2nd level or below, so that's why it's strong-armed them into being 3rd level. So it's about going to an observatory, and this observatory in its heyday was a marvel of magical invention. Adorned with gorgeous stained glass windows and marble spires, the towers stood high above the churning sea on separate islets, linked by shimmering bridges of magical energy. But the observatory was wrecked when Runara battled with her blue dragon rival centuries ago, and now it lies in ruin, a crumbled memory, overtaken by nature. It's just a battlefield of what it used to be. So there's a blue dragon wormling here now called Sparkrender, a descendant of Runara's ancient rival who she murdered here. 5 days before the characters arrive, a bronze dragon wormling named Adrian came to the observatory, and when the two dragons met each other, they had a fight. And Adrian, the bronze one, was imprisoned by the blue one, Sparkrender. Sparkrender believes Adrian is the key to unlocking the observatory's magic and claiming his ancestors' power. Sparkrender's going to begin to plan a ritual that will awaken the spirit of the island's dead dragons and bind them to his will. So you can approach by land, which is the more likely one, I would say. Clambering over the rocky ground of Stormwreck Isle, you spot strange twisted protrusions of glassy crystal jutting from the earth. The vegetation in this area bears reddish branching scars that form similar shapes. Suddenly you hear a screeching roar and notice a winged, glittering blue shape swooping overhead. Now I've run this campaign, actually, in the end, and my players immediately ducked for cover. And that's kind of what you're going for. A character who examines the crystals and scarred vegetation with a DC 10 nature recognise that it's signs of a lightning strike and lightning breath of a blue or bronze dragon, because this is where the battle was. Or they approach by water. As you round the southeastern tip of the island, you can see crumbling ruins atop basalt columns just off the main island body. If you pull the boat ashore at the island, it would be an easy walk to the top of the cliffs, though there is no obvious bridge from the cliffs to the ruins. Alternatively, you could tie the boat up at the bottom of the columns and try to climb directly up to the ruins. As you consider these options, you hear a screech overhead, and the dragon obviously landing. Same thing, just don't have them go on by boat if you can. You want them to start in Area D1, if you ask me. Now, there are kobolds around, and these are semi-loyal to Sparkrender. So what the kobolds know, they've served Sparkrender for about a year. They revere the blue dragon as semi-divine and trust him to provide for their every need. Big plans. Sparkrender has big plans which will allow him to manifest his full power. The kobolds think it's soon, possibly today. Not long ago, another dragon arrived, the bronze one. They had a fight, and I would imagine that they know he's got a prisoner. Anyway, this is where we're really getting interested here. So I had my party arrive on here without giving them the option of water. Runara gives them a key around their neck, I put it. A moonstone key, I think it's called, and you basically put it into one of these dragon statues at the end of there, and it just kind of does a magical energy bridge. And then if they put it in there, they go magical energy bridge. I think if you unplug it, the bridge may disappear or it may last a minute. We'll find out. D1, the overlook. A broken and overgrown path winds to the edge of the cliff. The overlook is marked by 2 marble statues veined with gold, each carved in the shape of a dragon with its mouth open in silent roar. At the base of the statue is the indentation for the key. The bridge is sturdy and lasts until the key is removed from the statue. Right. But the problem is, once you get to the middle, the key's still in the statue. And when you pull it out, the bridge is gone. That is why I think we have some winged kobolds over in this location as well. If you get them to help you, they'll fly you over. So D2, We're looking at the main area here. Broken stone lines this plaza. Fragments of elegant statues, once magnificent pillars and shining marble walls. At the centre, a tall sculpture of rusted planets and gilded stars spins idly in a jerky mimicry of celestial motion. A gargled screech suddenly rises from across the plaza. A half dozen bat-like creatures are swarming around two winged kobolds with blue paint smeared across their long snouts. The kobolds are fighting fiercely, but they seem close to being overwhelmed. Okay, two kobolds being attacked by 8 surges. If the party help out the kobolds, that is where they win their allegiance. And my party beat those and then convinced the kobolds to take them to their leader, who you'll find out is sleeping. So if you're that bothered about names, they're called Mech and Min, and they are brothers of Myla, the kobold tinkerer at Dragon's Rest, who I don't think I even mentioned. So the golden sculpture right in the middle of D2 is an astronomical model. And this area is all about constellations and space. It seems that a comet will soon pass very close to Toril, which is the land we're in. And that's the significance of the observatory and spark render. He thinks that when the planets align or whatever and the comet comes over, that's when he can tap into ancient magic. So I would skip over the dragon effigies myself, as I did. But there are dragon statues around made out of chunks of rubble into vaguely draconic shapes and painted. That's why the kobolds had blue on their nose. A spark render told them to make it. A pair of statues like the ones on D1 stand on the west side of the rotunda, and yeah, just they open all the bridges to the moonstone, the one moonstone they have. A rickety bridge to the kobold camp. 3 kobolds, 2 winged kobolds which could fly the people over, inhabit this camp, polishing sling bullets. They are susceptible to intimidation. Isolated study. Characters might come up with any number of ingenious ways to cross the gap. See sidebar called Clever Solutions. The rhythm of the waves below echoes throughout this cramped tower. Part of the floor has crumbled away, dropping off into a chamber below. Amid the rubble, collapsed bookcases jut out at odd angles, and mouldering books are strewn across the floor. It's a mess, basically. Most of the books have fallen apart, so if the characters are trying to get you, well, what's this book, or what's this book, just say, too tattered to tell. However, if you want to go a little bit further, pull 5 books out of a roll table online somewhere. One book has a small arcane rune engraved above the keyhole on the journal's lock. Character who casts Detect Magic sees it's magical. This is a magical trap that triggers if you open it without the original key, which is lost, so it's going to go off. Basically, they get spewed with noxious gas and take 1d6 worth of poison. But inside the journal contains star maps and notes on experiments with magic. Basically, there's a clue here for the 4 statues, which we've not yet got to point towards certain constellations, and that opens a secret door. These 4 statues, like all pointing like that, but all in different directions, and when you point them a certain way, then the door opens. So Clever Solutions to get over to the isolated study. Ask the winged kobolds to retrieve the moon key. Dive or climb down into the water. Cast Misty Step. So that's standard stuff. If you're doing an investigation, you can find a hidden compartment with a potion of resistance to lightning and a pouch containing 10 gold. I mean, pretty much I thought the gold was a little bit useless because there's no follow-up adventure. I know you could make one up, but most people are just going to finish after this, so what's the point of having gold at the end? You get to D2 and you go across here, and these are the 4 statues, and this is the hidden door, which will open up to a staircase where you go down. And this inside here is where Adrian is. So back to D5. Rays of light dance across the remains of this tower's stained glass dome, making iridescent colours shimmer across the crumbled marble walls. Gilded lines and jewelled inlays form a detailed star map spanning the dusty floor. 4 statues of scholars stand around the perimeter of the room, their expressions worn with time. Each 10-foot tall statue is pointing or gesturing in a different direction. Curled in the northeast corner of the tower is a lithe blue dragon. He's lying on some treasure. He's only a wormling, so he doesn't have, lair actions, any of the decent stuff. He's like a baby, but he can still do 22 damage. And every time, well, I think I only got away with it once. I did 22 damage to 2 of the players, and that is tasty damage. I think 2 guys were unconscious straight away. Now, how my players beat this was by casting command, and with one word, which was flee. Looking back, I don't believe it's actually a legal move. It specifies something in the text of command that meant it wouldn't have worked. Or if it had worked, it would have worked for a brief time. He was happy that he'd managed to do it. It was what it was. So you can wake Sparkrender and fight him now, or you can sneak past and find the secret library and free Adrian. So sneaky, there's a stealth roll of 14 if you wish to go by the rules. You could make too much noise turning the statues. The statues have to be turned to correspond with constellations on the floor. And that was a little bit of a journal clue that you find, that they must point towards constellations. If you wake the dragon, he does his breath weapon straight off the bat. 22 damage, boom, there you go. So here are 4 sentences that the dragon can say. If we look at languages here, he only speaks Draconic, and yet he's giving it lines of dialogue. So that's what, if anyone speaks Draconic, that's what he's saying. Otherwise, I guess you just make him shunter to himself. The dragon fights till he's reduced to 10 hit points and then disappears. The characters will not flee because they're not like that. Hidden entrance, the 4 statues get turned around, you go into this secret area. A semicircular section at the centre of the floor begins to glow before descending into the library. It forms a spiral staircase. Right, so treasure includes large piles of coins, 4,500 copper pieces, 2,200 silver, 130 gold, some gems, a waterproof leather case. Inside that is a blue silk fan, worth 25 gold. It sounds like much more fancy. Then you've got a flute with a pleasing sound, an hourglass with sparkling sand, and candlesticks. Pretty disappointed my players were with that. Inside the secret library is Adrian. If characters don't find the hidden entrance, they have to clear away rubble or swim down and find a hold and come up into it. So they find the agitated bronze dragon the size of a bear, picking himself up from the wreckage of an old desk he crashed into. He regrets picking a fight with the dragon and falling out with Runara, just wants to get back. Oh, that's right, the above treasure I read was the hoard that the blue dragon was on. This is the library treasure, and there was a +1 battle axe, but why? Whole person spell, scroll, yeah, not a great deal. Now there's a section here for if the characters leave without fighting the dragon, even though there's not much else to do. And they get to come back when he's awake and doing his ritual, which might be pretty good and climactic, but I just can't imagine it happening. Let me know if it happens to you. But should you come back later? Streams of coloured light swirl through the air around the golden statue in the ruined rotunda. Each shimmering display seems to originate from one of the 5 dragon effigies you saw before, and the light's colours match the colours of the effigies: red, gold, brass, blue and bronze. A blue dragon is perched on top of the sculpture, throwing his head back in pain or ecstasy as the lights surround him. He unleashes a bolt of lightning upwards towards the sky. At the base of the statue, a bronze dragon is bound to the ground by 3 heavy chains. He looks like he's in agony. So to stop the ritual, the characters have to face the wormling anyway. Surely it's better to get some blood in while he's asleep. He fights to the death. At the end of each round of combat, a random magical effect occurs caused by the lights that swirl around. A blessing, you get hit points regained, some flames, fire damage, Eldenemia's gift, breath weapon recharges, Sheriff's fury, dex save, fire damage, Turadea's tricks, Adrian and characters gain advantage. So you've got to free Adrian from these 3 heavy chains because he's restrained. Removing the chains from Adrian takes 10 minutes. Don't like that, it takes far too long. Disrupting the ritual. The characters can use their actions in combat to interfere with the process and hinder Sparkrender in magical ways. Manipulate the effigies, destroy the effigies, manipulate the sculpture. This is all on the option of you running away and coming back. This is much more climactic, and yet my characters just walked in there, woke the sleeping dragon, and made it flee. But I suppose that was a bit my fault. Basically, you rescue Adrian, kill the dragon, or he flees, and take Adrian back to Dragon's Rest. everyone lives happily ever after, I guess. Sort of wing it, wrap it up, and that's it. I mean, it's a nice little adventure, not too delicately difficult, not too boring. I was happy with it. Apart from, a second time you run any adventure, it's better because you know what the pitfalls were last time. And so all your players, your main group, will always get the worst of every adventure because, it's the second time you play it that it's good or the best. So that's it really. I won't waste more of your time. So thank you for watching. Check out another video from me. See you later.